Oh, I'm entirely too late in starting my day. I know there's people who want me to discuss what happened last night in the world of basketball, but I want to talk about the world of wrestling first. Because first and foremost, this is important. Now, I watched the pre-show, and I agonized over whether or not to order Double or Nothing. I didn't. Now, the reason for that is simple. It was $49.95. And what I saw in the pre-show did not tell me, yeah, you need to pay $50 to watch this. Now, there's no CM Punk signings, but the appearance of Jon Moxley is major. Now, everybody knows him, for the most part, mainstream wrestling fans, as Dean Ambrose. That was the name WWE gave him, and that's what WWE does. Sort of like if Seth Rollins ever leaves, he's Tyler Black on the independent scene. That's why they do it. So they change your name when you join the company. That way, when you leave the company and you go wrestle somewhere else, you have to go by a different name. Ty Dillinger showed up last night in AEW as Shane Spears, and I thought he did pretty well. The funny thing is, I was watching the live stream and watching the reactions, and my God, wrestling fans are negative. Holy crap, wrestling fans are so negative. I was seeing during the Battle Royal, oh, this is crap. This is stupid. This is awful. This is terrible. I'm like, holy Lord. It is the first event by a company ever. And people in match number 1 on a pre-show are saying, hey, this is crap. This is terrible. This is garbage. Who's paying for this? I agree that $50 was steep. I agree that the asking price for the initial event probably should have been lower. That being said, if they are really and truly paying these guys big money, and word is that they are, they need to charge money for these events as well, since they don't have a TV deal that's paying right now, unless they got paid up front for the deal with TNT Drama, but I don't think that's the way that works. At any rate, they'll have a weekly show come October. Apparently it's on Wednesdays, which is good, because Wednesdays, usually a light night in hockey. Usually hockey's Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays when it's really busy, so looking forward to that. Now, when we get to the big matches that everybody liked, I'm talking about the Young Bucks where they become tag champs, and I don't know how I feel about that. Because one thing that we've talked about with WWE for years is whether it's nepotism that occurs or whether it's favoritism with belts. Putting the tag belts on the Young Bucks, because they are part of the ownership structure of AEW, and Cody Rhodes being predominantly featured in this event as well. The thing is, they are some of the bigger names. Young Bucks, if they were in WWE, would be absolutely huge stars. And they kind of are in their own right. One thing that they've proven, and that a lot of wrestlers in this era have proven, is you don't need to go to WWE to make your money. You don't really need to. You can go to New Japan, you can go to AAA, you can go to CMLL, you can go to any of these places, make a pretty good living. Lucha Underground as well was paying guys relatively well, and not have to go to WWE and sell your soul to get on television, which is what some wrestlers feel like they're doing. Now, the key thing is this. There were a lot of WWE wrestlers watching last night, and a lot of them cheering on the new promotion. Now, this is going to be read as, oh, so-and-so wants out. No. Competition always makes things better. And I think the way that show ended last night with Jon Moxley being put over as the superhero and kind of a villain at the same time, just attacking everybody, perfect. Dean Ambrose, at times in WWE, would get into his character and he'd be over and then they'd ruin it. They always found a way to just ruin it. Whether it was the gas mask crap that he was doing towards the end of his run there, or whatever they would have him do, it's like, oh, this is so over the top. Just let him be crazy. Just let him be himself. Just let him go out there, cut promos, and just be kind of an ass. Now, the interesting thing to me is this. WWE treated Moxley, as Dean Ambrose, pretty well on his way out the door. Very often in WWE, when a wrestler is on his way out the door, they may treat him kind of poorly, pull him off TV, have him lose a bunch of matches. Now, Ambrose did lose matches, but they still had the Shield reunion. They still made them look pretty strong as he was going out the door. And the feeling was WWE figured he's going to come back. We'll make sure he feels good about things. I'm not so sure that that's going to happen the next time around. I'm not so sure that the next time somebody's contract's running out, that WWE is going to be quite as nice to them, because they may look at Moxley and AEW as more of a real threat than just an existential one, or figurative one, I should say, and it may not work out as well for the next wrestler. It may very well not work out quite as well for the next wrestler. It's going to be a very, very interesting time, is what I'm saying. WWE has spent 20 years as the only company that has a major TV deal that makes a ton of money in North America. Impact has had its moments, but when they went live, they blew it. They absolutely blew it. And they blew it that first week. I watched the first week that Impact went live and groaned most of that show about what was going on. Now, AEW, in their first show, their 3 big matches, they did pretty well. So Kenny Omega against Chris Jericho went over pretty well. And I know people are going to get upset over the idea of, well, Jericho won. Why would Jericho win? Because then Jericho has the match with Adam Page. He can put Page over and make Page look like an absolute megastar. And they can build Page from there towards a feud with Kenny Omega or Jon Moxley. So see, they're already establishing early on who your main guys are going to be, and you can get Cody Rhodes in there as well. And that's encouraging me. Now, the one match that everybody was talking about after was Dustin Rhodes versus his brother Cody, or as known to WWE fans, Goldust versus Cody, who became Stardust, right? And the fact that they had this absolute bloodletting brawl, and then it ended with Cody saying, "I need my brother," and they're going to tag up against the Young Bucks at the next event. I smell a heel turn by Cody in this. It just sounds to me like something in wrestling that you would have seen back in the old NWA days, where they make you feel like, hey, this guy's realized how much he loves his brother, and then he's gonna turn the screws to him the next time around. We'll see. I think the way this was booked, it makes me wonder if maybe Dustin was coming in for a last match. Maybe he said to Cody this week, hey, I feel better than I have in years. I can have more than one match here. We could draw this out. And maybe they'll draw it out and find a way to make it work until October, when they have the weekly show, and then transition Dustin into another role in the company. I like it. I do. I think Jimmy Havoc is going to become a household name if AEW does manage to make things work. And I have to mention MJF. Now, MJF, pretty sure I saw him in that MLW. I've been watching a lot of different things lately, so I'm pretty sure he's part of that MLW thing that I watched when somebody recommended it. I thought, yeah, I can watch that instead of Raw. Sure. So I did. I watched it instead of Raw, and it was kind of better. And Brian Pillman Jr. is a pretty good wrestler, and he didn't really do a whole lot in that Battle Royal last night, but again, it's their first night. It's their first night. So I think there's a lot of wrestlers in this company, MJF being the guy who probably could be the top bad guy at some point. What's nice is seeing something new, seeing wrestlers with a chance to tell their story the way they want to. And yeah, they could fall on their face. It could be an absolute disaster, or it could be fantastic. And when you have Tony Khan backing you, Tony Khan's worth roughly, I think it's $3 billion, and your company has a TV deal. And I'm telling you, with Tony Khan being the owner, that's why you got the TV deal. That's a large part of why. And on TNT as well, which is just fantastic on their part. I'm anxious to see what happens. And it's different than it was way back in the days of the territories. I was never a fan of AWA wrestling. I couldn't get into it. NWA I enjoyed quite a bit. I would stay up, but you had to stay up till like 1 in the morning to watch it. And it was on an obscure network from Washington State. It wasn't broadcast from any British Columbia-based network at all. So, it was they really were up against it, because WWE was broadcast from everywhere, as, of course, WWF at the time. And I always liked having an alternative, because it felt different. That's the thing. It's not just... And this is the funny thing, too, is I saw a lot of people talking about the production values and, well, they're not as good as WWE, and they'll go through all this. And it's like, they just started. You know, it's like getting your kid out on skates, going, McDavid skates faster than that. You suck. You're terrible at this. Like I don't get it. You it's their first show and people are right away like, oh, everybody says this is better. No, nobody has said AEW was better. Just that the potential is there for them to be the first real competition WWE has had in decades. And I'm grateful that they're there. And when the next pay per view comes up, which is apparently in about a month, I will be far more likely to buy it. If you're gonna put Jon Moxley in against Kenny Omega, and you're gonna have Adam Page against Chris Jericho for the title, and you've got the Young Bucks against the Rhodes brothers, they are very very close to having my vote as I'm more likely to watch that because they're really the ROH guys. If they can get some ROH guys into there too, like if they could get a Dalton Castle, if they could get the Briscoes, figure something out where they still wrestle in ROH, but they come in and do these AEW events on the agreement that they'll talk up ROH a little bit at the same time. Hey, it's free promotion for ROH. I think you could do some fantastic things. Jay and Mark Briscoe are two of the best kept secrets in wrestling as far as I'm concerned, because I hadn't really heard much about them until I started watching ROH a few years ago, and I was like, these guys are fantastic. Jay Briscoe's amazing. So if AEW can somehow bring them in, and Dalton Castle's fantastic, and if they can make this all work and maybe get Jay Lethal in there and mix that with what they have, they could put together a really intimidating card. And in the meantime, there's other contracts in WWE that are going to end, and if they pick the right guys, and that's where WCW fell apart. With Bischoff and WCW, it was, you wrestled in WWE. Who are you, Virgil? Okay, well, yeah, we'll bring you and put you in the NWO. Who are you? Were I don't know if anybody will remember you, but we'll bring you in anyways. And this was where the problem was with anybody who got cut by WWE. It seemed like WCW cut them a paycheck and threw them in the ring. And and I don't think AEW will make that mistake. As long as they pick the right guys, that fans will go, hey, wait, who's that? He's on where now? You can get that WCW effect. One thing that people noticed right away was that Noelle Foley was at ringside, and of course she wanted to be a WWE wrestler. I think that's kind of fallen apart now. I don't think she's going to do the wrestling thing, but the fact she was at an AEW show, you could throw her as a valet at ringside, and you can have her dad come in every now and then. Like last night, Tommy Dreamer was in the Battle Royal, and I could see it in the chat, like, oh, he's old, he's this, he's that, oh, this is stupid, well, what's the point? You know what? It's fun. It's a fun throwback, and when you're doing a brand new show with all these people, you throw some people that guys know in the ring, like Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn, yeah, is he old? Absolutely. By wrestling standards, yes. But he's still in pretty damn good shape, and he can still wrestle. So you could put Billy Gunn into a match and have it be a pretty darn good match. There's no reason you can't. I find it's strange that people right away are like, oh, that's so stupid. And I maybe it's just the WWE backers, but I don't understand why there would be fans that would be that upset. Like, it's not a threat to WWE on any level. It's an alternative, and it feels nice to have that. So here's to hoping that it's more more long-term storytelling and less of the kind of crap we've been seeing. The event was booked perfectly, and I know people say, well, the results were all predictable. Welcome to wrestling. Results are largely predictable. I can go to an indie show locally, and at the start of a match, I can go, well, that guy's going to win. But it's the journey. It's not the destination. And if the story is told really, really well, some of the biggest movies in history, we know the end from the beginning. You don't go into Titanic going, so I think they're going to miss the iceberg. You don't go into Avatar going, man, I really hope this whole planet dies. So, knowing the end from the beginning doesn't necessarily mean it's not still entertaining. So, I think that while I was surprised with the result of the Kenny Omega Chris Jericho main event, the rest of it didn't really surprise me in terms of results, but all the reviews have been glowing, and I will order it next time. And I would not order a WWE pay-per-view right now. I don't find it entertaining, and that's the problem. When you throw in a surprise finish, like if you have an amazing finish to a movie that the first 85 minutes, first 90 minutes are absolutely awful, does that finish really save it? Probably not. You're probably looking and going, that was an interesting end to that movie, but my God, the rest of that movie was terrible. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. And that's where WWE has a problem right now. Sometimes they have the right idea for how to end it. Sometimes they have the right idea for how to get the match put together. Sometimes the storyline might be okay, but they can't get it all into one piece because there's so many different writers and there's so many rewrites and edits going on with Raw and SmackDown these days that at the end of it, SmackDown just ends up being a carbon copy of Raw. That's been the case the last 3 or 4 weeks from what I've seen and from what I've heard, because I don't watch the entire show. And it's just it just reeks of being the same every week. It feels like everything's the same. And the last time I remember feeling that way with wrestling was, I want to say, about a decade ago when I stopped watching WWE for, I think it was 6 months. I didn't even watch it. I had nothing to do with it. And there was a period where I was a huge WCW fan, and then all of a sudden I said, nah, I can't do this anymore. I just couldn't do it. And the funny thing is, towards the end of WCW's run, everybody talks about Vince Russo and how stupid he is and how horrible he is. There were some really brilliant things being done by WCW at the end. The problem was you had some really stupid matches and stupid stipulations. But there were some really interesting wrestlers, some really interesting ideas going on. They just couldn't get all their stuff straightened out, and Russo and Bischoff arguing and the power struggle in the company caused the whole product to suffer in the ring. Everybody points at Hulk Hogan, and his going off and Vince Russo firing him and that whole thing as being, that was it. That was the end of it. No, it was ending before that. That was just the cherry on top. And after that, and again, there were still some moments on WCW where I went, this feels new and different. Where like they were pushing different guys, and then Vince bought the company, so it didn't matter. So there you go. Just my take on AEW, the state of wrestling in general right now. I think this is it is an age right now where there are, I would say, the most wrestlers we've ever had. I'm trying to find a way to word this that isn't awkward. I don't think we've ever had a talent pool as deep as professional wrestling has right now. That you can fill numerous companies worldwide with really grade A talent and still have more to come. So if people get upset about the whole idea of guys bolting to AEW, it forces Vince to get new wrestlers on the air. It forces a company to change the way they do things, and that's what people are looking for. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you watched Double or Nothing and what you thought. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And if you watched it, do you plan on watching more of it? Or are you done? Again, I think it was a very promising start, and I'm anxious to see where they go from here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.